It really starts with the story of going to my first conference. And you know how the CMF conferences are the largest in the country, and ours is the largest RAG, and we have the most family foundations, and it represents 95% of the asset base in the state of Michigan. And I remember going to my first conference. I didn't know what to expect. Now, you have to understand, I am not a professional in the fundraising. I had been in fundraising, but I hadn't been in the philanthropic field. So it was so professional, but it was really felt like I wasn't comfortable talking about family philanthropy. And I really was wondering, I remember thinking, I wonder if this is just my experience or if some of the other family members of these, family foundations feel the same way. And in talking to them, I found that to be the case. And I thought, well, we need to have our space too. It's wonderful that you have all these professionals who have made it their life, work, but we also have, but we don't get paid. So that's how we started with the idea of starting the conferences, separate conferences or meetings for the family foundations. And we really just started the first one saying, I don't know if this is going to work. We had a meeting, I remember the first meeting, and every time I tried to talk to these families, they weren't even sure they wanted to talk about it, right? So they liked to sort of disappear into the crowd. And that's sort of the ethic of service in our state. No one wants to talk about what they do, right? So I remember getting up in front of all these people and being the bold person I am, and talking about the elephant in the room. And I just remember saying to them, it's not about the zeros. It's about the work we do, and is there a collective sharing that we can learn from each other? Because I have a feeling that we all are facing the same issues. And perhaps if we reach out of that space and talk about it, we can help. And then the family started coming, because we'd have, like, at the conference, we would have I'd do a suite. I'd have a suite open so the families could come talk before and after the meetings. And then we started thinking about programming for them. And we started the first retreat. And then the families just were hungry for this. And sometimes you'd get families, the whole entire family, to come from 0 to 80. And sometimes, like mine, I'd be the only representative. But it didn't matter, because once we were there, we were all family. And we could talk about what really mattered to us. And we could approach it as a study. It wasn't just something we sat around the table and sort of tried to deal with our siblings and get this done. We'd learned to be more professional about it. We'd learned how other people were doing it. I remember saying to Susan Haubert, she was head of the family foundations at CMF, and I said, why don't we go to other places and see how they do it? So we took a field trip to Northern California, I remember. And that was a really wonderful thing, sitting and talking around the table. And the thing that struck me the most is, if you took away all the names, all the stories were the same. It was, you sit at a table with your family members, and inevitably all your family issues are going to come up. So how do you get beyond that for the greater good, right? Because we all want to do the work, but we all have our own sort of way we think we should do it. And it seems like when we show up at the table, it's like we're showing up at Christmas dinner from when we were 10 and 12 and 8, and so there was a wonderful learning that went on. And it is a different sort of way of exploring philanthropy in a family foundation. It's a more personal way, and it doesn't mean it's any less professional, although sometimes the family members feel that way, but because we do just as wonderful work. The thing I do note, not to get off the subject, but I just want to say this because I really feel strongly about family foundations and the whole movement. I feel very strongly because the big foundations are wonderful, and they can really help with infrastructure building, and they go in with lots of money, but sometimes they don't stay there. But the family foundation are what I call the army on the ground, because they want to get to know their grantees, and they'll stay in, and they're partners with them, and you see them pulling up their sleeves and working alongside them. It's not like, come to me for a grant. In most cases, it's because they are firmly committed to the work they're doing.